So, the question that I want us to kind of think about tonight is, what happened to you? The reason why that question is so important is because usually when we see children, adolescents, or even adults that may be displaying some kind of behavior that we might deem inappropriate or negative, the question that we usually ask is, what's wrong with you? Right? So I want us to be able to consider asking the question, what happened to you? Because when you ask the question, what's wrong with you, it places blame on that very person for things that are happening to them that they may not even have control over. So we understand that adverse childhood experiences and trauma affects our ability to learn. So I want to be able to kind of discuss and explore what trauma and childhood adverse experiences really do to children that have suffered trauma. And I want to share a little bit of my personal story. So I was born to teenage parents. My mom and my dad were 16 years old. I was born in the city of Hartford in a neighborhood that had its share of community violence, substance use, and poverty. But what was more traumatizing was not what was going on in my neighborhood, what was going on inside my home. You see, my dad was struggling with emotional, mental health, and substance use issues as well. And he would come home every night and physically, mentally, psychologically abuse my mom. So growing up in that environment day after day, night after night, was pretty traumatic. And then came one Sunday, September 13th. That day, my mom packed me, my 3-year-old brother, and my 1-year-old sister. As a custom, every Sunday we would go to church. But before going to church, we had to go to grandma's house to eat, right? So she packed us in the car. We were running late. She says, we don't have time. We got to get upstairs to grandma's house, and we want you to, eat so that we can get to church on time. So we get to grandma's house. We arrive in front of this 4-story brick building on Park Street in the city of Hartford. And she takes my 3-year-old brother and my 1-year-old sister, and they go upstairs, and I slip around the back. I wanted to spend time playing with the neighborhood kids. I didn't get a lot of opportunities to do that. So the reason I didn't get a lot of opportunities to do that was due to my violent father. Most of the times, my mom had to pack me and my siblings and run to domestic violence shelters to keep us safe from him. So I took the opportunity when we got to grandma's house to go out in the back and play. And I'm having a good time, and then all of a sudden I hear this scream, the scream that I'm kind of used to hearing, but this one was a little bit more terrifying. So I run around the building and come to the front of the building, and in front of the building, my brother has suffered a fatal accident. That moment changed my life forever. Understanding that trauma and childhood adverse experiences affect our ability to learn, how is a child that experiences adversity and trauma can be able to sit in a classroom and learn from their teachers? Teachers are phenomenal. I work with teachers every single day. They probably have one of the most important jobs on this planet. But children that have faced adversity and trauma are going to struggle to learn. Not that they can't learn, they're just going to struggle to learn. So after that experience, I'm struggling with shame, guilt, because I'm thinking the passing of my brother was my fault. I took full responsibility for that, a 6-year-old child. Now I'm sitting in classes, and there's 2 types of students that I want you to be aware of, right? There's students that can experience trauma in 2 different perspectives. One are externalizers and one are internalizers. The externalizing kids, we all know, we all see them, right? They're the ones acting out. They're the ones that are being sent to the office for all types of negative behaviors in the classrooms. Those are the easy ones to point out. But you see, I was an internalizer. So I was in the classroom struggling with my adversity, struggling with my trauma, struggling with my emotional distress, but I didn't cause any problems in the classroom, to the teacher, so I went unnoticed. But my grades were average to below average. Struggling through adversity and trauma, now here comes junior year of high school. Junior year of high school, everyone's beginning to talk and plan what they're going to do after they graduate. I want to go to college, I said. So I make an appointment to meet with my school guidance counselor, go to meet with her, sit down with her. She looks at my transcripts, she looks at me, she looks at my transcripts, and she looks at me again. And then she says these words that also marked my life. She says, "Noel, you're not college material." So with that being said, there goes my hopes and dreams of trying to better myself, better my family's condition, and try to do, a little bit better for myself. So I pick up my bag, put it on, and I'm walking down the hallway, and the next voice that I hear changed my life. Mr. Amado Cruz, my high school principal. I'm walking down the hallway, and the next voice that I hear is his voice, and he says, "Son," I look up. He says, "What happened to you?" There it was. It wasn't the question that I was expecting, because usually the question that we always hear is, "What's wrong with you? Why can't you shake that off? That happened so many years ago. Why are you still struggling with it?" But he asked the key question, "What happened to you?" So I look up and I share with him the conversation that I had with my school counselor, and he says, I'll make a commitment to you right now. He says, "If you want to go to college, then I want you to make a commitment with me." So he tells me, "Every morning I want you to check in with me so that we can see how your day is going, so that I can ask you questions about how you're doing in class, and we can do a plan for the next 2 years so that we can get you to college if that's what you want." So Mr. Cruz was that first person to make a difference in my life by asking, "What happened to you?" and by making a commitment to establish a relationship of mentorship with me. How powerful is that? So Mr. Cruz couldn't be here today. He lives next door to my uncle, so I see him from time to time. He couldn't make it here today for some medical reasons. But I want to say thank you, Mr. Cruz, for making a difference in my life. Then he connects me for the next 2 years. We're working together, and he connects me with a college prep program, career beginnings, and in that program I begin to get ready for college and go on college tours and begin the process of filling out applications. One of the first college tours that I went on was right here, CCSU. And immediately when I got on campus, I could see myself walking the campus, being a student, and I was really, really inspired, and I wanted to come to CCSU. My mentor through Career Beginnings introduced me to this next gentleman, Mr. Charles Jones Jr. When I met him, he greeted me with a firm handshake, and his beautiful smile and encouraging words, welcoming me to campus, made me feel right at home. So he tells me this phrase that I still live by. He says, you want to come to CCSU? And I'm like, yeah, I want to come to CCSU. He says, how serious are you about your education? I said, I'm very serious. He says, because 99% won't do. You have to be 100% committed to your education and to your studies. So I want you to understand that that's how serious you should take your education. Mr. Jones continued to mentor me, and I was lucky enough to be accepted into the Equal Opportunity Program that works with students that might struggle with regular admissions to get into a college or university. So Mr. Jones, thank you for making a difference in my life. So now I graduate from high school, I'm at CCSU, I'm excited, and it's the summer that changed my life. That's the phrase for the EOP program. And it literally changed my life, because not only was I on campus and beginning to live my dream, but now I also met my wife at EOP. Right? Amazing. So thank you, Mr. Jones, for introducing me to my wife. So now I'm at CCSU. I am so excited, like I said. But there are some adversities and childhood traumas that I'm still struggling with, and I'm still trying to figure out how to manage them. Because of my violent father, he wasn't, after my brother's death, he no longer was in my home. So I grew up without a father. And growing up without a father, you understand, you have read that it has its share of difficulties. So next, I want to introduce you to Bishop Dr. Jeremiah Torres, who also mentored me and made a difference in my life. And by making a difference in my life, I'm talking about he married my wife and I. He was there when my son was born. He congratulated me when I graduated from college, but he taught me how to be a man of integrity. He taught me what it was to be a father and what it was to be a husband. I was scared. I didn't know how to be any of those things. So his mentorship of me allowed me to begin to understand what it was to be a good father, a good husband, and a good man. And he also inspired me to come back to Central and get my master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and even inspired me and encouraged me to get my doctorate in clinical psychology, and he even attended my dissertation defense. So, Bishop Torres, thank you for making a difference in my life. So, Dr. Bruce Perry from the Child Trauma Academy, child psychiatrist and senior fellow at the Child Trauma Academy, talks about this very important concept that I want us to really grasp today. He talks about kids that struggle with adversity and trauma are going to struggle to learn unless we meet these basic three things that he calls the 3 R's. We have to connect kids with services so that they can have the ability to regulate their emotional dysregulation. Kids that are dysregulated emotionally are not going to be able to establish positive relationships or even have the ability to thrive academically. So, we have to connect kids to be able to have a good self-regulation, connect them with positive relationships with caregivers, with parents, and with mentors, and then they'll be able to have the ability to make good decisions in their life. Yes, I am a kid from Hartford. There may be other kids similar to me, but there may be kids that have even more traumatic experiences than I've had. So what I want to share with you today is also what, at the Anna Grace Project, we strongly believe that it is through love, community, and connection that children can really thrive, and it really saves lives. So, what happened to you? That is the question that I want us to be able to answer and ask of each other today when we're working with or have an opportunity to mentor a kid that has struggled through adversity and trauma. If you can be a difference in a child's life, be that person that can be a difference in a child's life. Thank you.